So this is the ward app here. We're looking at the ward view. This work was done in one of the squads that Grace was showing on the squad dashboard in the IPD squad. So I'll go through what we're seeing on the screen, and then I'll talk through some of the actions and functionality you can do from this. The goal of this app was to make a easy screen, a one-place view for clinicians in inpatient ward settings to be able to manage their admissions, transfers, and discharges of patients who are coming into their ward and leaving their ward. So here I'm in the postnatal ward. Each card you see here represents a patient who's admitted to this ward. And then within the card, there's some key information about that patient. The number, blue circle, is the bed number that they're assigned to. We have their name, their ID, age, some demographic information about their address, and then when they were admitted generally to this facility, but also admitted to this ward. So in the case of labor and delivery, they may be admitted to the hospital for a number of days, but spend time on different wards like labor, delivery, postnatal. I'll go through too. You can see some of these cards have different banners like labs and transfers, and I'll go through how those appear and disappear on these cards as well. In the top right here, we have the ward metrics. So this is showing the number of patients who are on this ward. This is patients who are admitted regardless of if they're assigned to a bed. This patient here on the far right is admitted to this ward, but you can see she doesn't have a bed assignment. Number of free beds, those are represented by the empty bed boxes here. Capacity, this is total number of patients over total number of beds. Again, regardless of if the patient is actually assigned to a bed, they just need to be admitted. And this number could be over 100%. I'll show you in a minute how you can do bed sharing. So currently you could assign 2 patients to the same bed if your facility is at capacity, but you still are admitting people to your ward. And then we have pending out. And so those are patients who have a transfer request to a different ward, but have not yet left this ward. So here we have 1 patient transferring to the critical care unit. Also here in the top right, we have the admission request list. So if I click manage, I can see there's 2 patients in this list. If I click manage, we have 2 patient cards here who are not yet admitted. This is showing both patients who are not admitted anywhere in this facility, but maybe have gone through triage in this case, and through the triage process determined their condition requires them to be admitted, so they've been requested to be admitted here to postnatal. This also includes patients who are currently admitted to a different location, so in this case, labor and delivery, and this patient has a transfer request to this ward, the postnatal ward. The buttons essentially do the same thing, but might say something different depending if the patient is currently admitted or not currently admitted. So here for this patient, the options are to admit her elsewhere. So if she's been sent to postnatal in error, but really she should go to labor and delivery, cancel this admission, or admit this patient to this ward. Same for the transfer patient. We can transfer her elsewhere if she's meant to go to a different ward. Maybe she needs to go to critical care or somewhere else. We can cancel this if it was done in error or it's no longer needed. And then we can complete the transfer into this ward. So let me admit this patient here. When I click admit patient, I'll get a list of the beds to assign. I can admit her without a bed if we've run out of beds, or there's maybe some temporary beds. I can just admit her to without a bed. I could admit her to an existing bed. So if she's going to share a bed, I could select one that already has a patient in it, or I can just admit her to an empty bed. Once I admit her, here's Nora. She's assigned to bed 2. Her card no longer appears here on the admission request list. So once a patient is admitted, you have a couple different actions you can take with them from this view. If I click on the patient card, it's going to open the patient workspace here, and you'll have a right-hand menu that looks similar to what you would see on the patient chart. In our PIH system, we're using a mix of O2 and O3 UIs, so this might not represent what you would use or what you would see in Dev 3. But here, when you first click on the patient card, you'll see a summary patient chart or dashboard. In our case, we're using parts of an O2 patient pregnancy program dashboard, just providing some key information. Also, because we're using a hybrid O2, O3 system, we have a link to take them to the full O2 patient chart. This would be clinical forms for most people. In our case, again, it's just our O2 forms and encounters here, where the provider can create new clinical forms to capture vitals, any sort of exam information, etc. We have patient notes. So this is taking inpatient notes. You can see the history if other providers have taken notes. Add any notes here. Transfer. So this allows you to transfer a patient to a different ward. So this is what creates that patient banner here. So if I transfer this patient to surgery and click save, this patient will now have two banners here. One, has outstanding labs, and two, we're waiting to transfer her to obstetric surgery. From this transfer menu item, you can also change the bed. So you can move her to no bed, move her to a bed share, or move her to a different bed. We have discharge. So here, clicking proceed with discharge will unassign this patient from the bed. It will discharge her from this ward, and then it'll end her visit. And then recently, I think there's been some work to add on the order basket and lab orders here. So I won't go into adding labs, I think, because we're doing it a little bit differently, but to have a labs banner here, you would order a lab and it's going to show all pending orders where there is no test result yet, or there's been no specimen collection. So it's a reminder to the clinician that the physician or the doctor or the nurse has ordered labs, but no action has been taken yet to run the lab test, either by collecting the sample or having someone come and do the bedside lab. So it's a reminder for them that there's still some action that needs to be taken. For the transfer to a different location, again, in the obstetric surgery ward, they would now see Victoria in their admission request list. So they could admit her here, they could cancel that admission or transfer her elsewhere. If the user or the clinician clicks this in error, they can always cancel this transfer, add any cancel notes here, click save, and that will remove the banner. And I think that's it. I gave a really fast, brief summary, but that's essentially it. Happy to answer more questions in the chat or talk further at a later date.